What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over how to make gold for dummies within the Elder Scrolls Online. So whether you're a new player or a veteran, gold is always essential for buying new gear, potions, food, enchantments, materials, and pretty much everything that we use in the game. We'll go over a handful of methods, starting with more simple and casual ones and working our way up to more complicated ones. The most important thing to keep in mind is that you should look to find a method that you actually enjoy and can continue to do consistently. So don't be afraid to experiment with different methods until you can find one that works for you. And for the sake of keeping it brief enough for a YouTube video, there will certainly be other methods for making gold that aren't mentioned here in detail, but I'll be sharing a basic guide with a few more complicated options as well. So our first method is going to be the most common sense method possible, and that is questing. Completing in-game quests is the easiest way to make gold, though not massive heaps of it. You'll receive items that can be sold, as well as straight up gold when experiencing the storyline of the game, and your profits can be stacked up to use later on when you need to start spending money on gear and things like that. The best thing you could ever hope to loot during questing would probably be the etheric cipher, which can be looted from any enemy in the base game zones at an extremely low rate. This would just happen when you're defeating a random enemy somewhere out in the world, not from some specific quest or anything like that. I have personally been playing on and off for about 5 years and still have not looted one of these. The current rate for an etheric cipher is 6 to 7 million gold. I'll bring it up again later, but completing daily quests in different zones can also provide you with valuable items to sell. Our second simple method to get started with is gathering. Items like herbs, ores, and wood can be collected and sold. With ores, wood, and clothing items, they can be sold raw or they can be refined into sanded planks, metal ingots, and textiles like cloth and leather. If you decide to refine your materials before selling them, be sure that your crafting rank is high enough to be working with the materials that you've been collecting, and also to have the meticulous disassembly champion ability unlocked and slotted for the best chances of receiving better resins, tempers, tannins, and platings from your raw materials. If you'd prefer to sell your materials in their unfinished state, you can fetch a slightly higher price per item, as the purchaser would prefer to take their own chances at receiving the resins, tempers, and so on. So when I'm gathering, I like to use the harvest map add-on to make my farming route easier to follow. Little pins will pop up on the map as well as in the world, so you won't have to memorize where every single node respawns, just making it that much easier to save time and maximize your profits. An added bonus when gathering materials in a base game zone is the small chance to loot the super rare ethereal dust, which can be sold for 770,000 gold at the time of recording. One of my personal favorite casual methods for earning gold is our third method, fishing. Once you've slotted angler's instincts, real technique, and either eaten your pickled fishbowl or found a friend or two to start fishing with, you can gather large stacks of various types of fish. Some of the more rare fish and furnishing items you'll catch can be sold to merchants or at a guild trader, while you can fillet stacks of normal fish to take your chances at obtaining the perfect roe item that is used in high-level provisioning recipes. Just like gathering, the unfilleted fish can be sold for a larger sum per fish, and the buyer would be taking the gamble in filleting those fish to obtain the perfect roe, which can sell for around 80k on the PCNA server at the time of recording. Just like with gathering, the harvest map add-on works well for fishing, and so does Votan's fish fillet. This will just allow you to fillet entire stacks of fish without having to continuously fillet the next fish in your pile, so you can get up and save your fingers. Our fourth method is crafting. Crafting is a general term that can include armor, weapons, jewelry, food, enchanting, alchemy, and so on. A good place to start with crafting would be to find some sets of gear that are high in demand and begin creating them to sell for a profit. Order's Wrath would be a good set to start with, as not everyone has access to certain DLC zones where armor is crafted. Other sets like Daedric Trickery, New Moon Acolyte, and Heartland Conqueror would be good places to start as well. For higher chances of selling your items, you can always make the gear in unique styles with max level enchantments and traits that are popular in the current meta. As with normal markets in the real world, the sets in demand will shift around over time as new updates are released, so be sure to stay on top of the news if you do decide to take this route. The other aspects of crafting, like potion and poison making, Provisioning and enchantment can also be profitable if one watches the market and farms their own materials, and makes items that would be more profitable than selling the raw materials themselves. And the final aspect of crafting that doesn't really need much of an explanation is daily crafting writs. So you can just go to the crafting board, pick up the daily crafting quests, complete them, and turn them in for a chance at getting rare materials and master writs, which can be sold or completed to stack up writ vouchers. Method number 5 is housing. Now, it should be mentioned that furniture pieces and decorations or patterns for these types of items can be looted and crafted and then sold for a profit, which would probably fit better into the categories of farming and crafting. But there are also some lesser known piles of gold waiting for you in the housing market. For example, in the Kragenholm house, the Dark Elf bed of coals can be sold for about 500,000 gold, while the entire house can be purchased for just 69,000 gold. Other homes have similar situations, like Autumn's Gate having flaming fire logs, and the Ald Velothi Harbor House has a shed, a well, and some stone items that can be sold for a profit. So with this method, you can begin to collect homes with in-game currency, and then sell some of the basic items that are included for more than the cost of the actual home. If you decide to use this method, you can even preview the homes and see a list of included items that come with the unfurnished version of the home, and look them up on Tamriel Trade Center. It would also be worth mentioning that some specific types of furniture and housing items can be very valuable, like target dummies, fireplaces, paintings, and so on. Our 6th method of making gold is stealing. This is a more fun and active method of making money, as you can sneak around and pickpocket NPCs, steal items from safes and lockboxes, and then take them to a fence for profit. This method may not be ideal for every type of player, but if you're someone who really likes to get into your role, then this would certainly be a fun way to play the game, while having the option to find unique items to sell. The Ledgermane skill line has many useful passives to make this line of work easier, so be sure to use some skill points to unlock Light Fingers, Trafficker, and so on. Looking at Zone Chat, you will likely find plenty of role-playing guilds that specialize in thievery and deception, so it probably wouldn't be difficult to make your way into a shadowy den of scoundrels and learn from the masters. Our 7th method will be motif farming. This can be done in dungeons, trials, and so on. More specifically, the chances for receiving drops is increased in veteran and hard mode content, and in general, the motifs from DLC content, like dungeons and trials and overland zones that are behind a paywall, will be more valuable. Certain events in-game can also grant you with rare motifs like the current Jubilee Festival, so you should ensure that you're doing daily crafting writs for easy anniversary boxes. Daily quests in DLC zones can also grant you motifs to sell, and as you can imagine, the prices will be higher the closer you are to the release date of the DLC. So when a new zone comes out, it can be a good idea to immediately go there and begin farming for motifs to get the highest return for your time. Other motifs can be tied to specific NPCs, such as the mercenary motifs from the Undaunted Pledgemasters. In many cases, you will find yourself grinding for a specific piece of gear in a trial or a dungeon, running the content over and over and over again. So you can kind of think of motif farming as a secondary goal while you're farming for some other piece of gear. And you'll want to be sure to loot treasure chests and check the occasional cupboard and dresser, because you never know what you'll find. Our 8th method is a continuation of crafting, and that is more specifically completing master writs. These can be looted when you turn in daily writs, and they can also be purchased from guild traders. Upon completing them, you will be rewarded with writ vouchers that can be spent at NPCs like the Mastercraft Mediator in Eldenroot. Items like attunable crafting stations, blueprints, motifs, ingredients, and so on can be purchased here and resold for large profits. So if you decide to do those daily crafting writs, be sure to save the master writs you loot, or find some very cheap ones to purchase and complete so you can stack up those vouchers and resell some of these items, or maybe even learn the blueprints yourself to create a new stream of income by crafting expensive items. Our 9th method is to earn gold in PvP by converting alliance points or Telvar into gold. So inside Cyrodiil, you will earn alliance points, or AP, when completing tasks from the job boards at your alliance camp, as well as when defeating enemies, capturing resources, taking over castles, defending your own alliance's assets, and completing campaigns. So whether you're trying to play with a group, run around as a lone wolf, or complete specific tasks on the job boards, you can farm for tons of alliance points in a variety of ways. Once you have a decent stack, the best way to convert to gold would be to purchase random gear like the Vicious Death set from the elite gear vendor at your alliance camp, maybe the Deadly Strike loot boxes from Bruma, the Potentates set from Valasterus, or even just converting your AP at the Battleground Supply Merchant into Dawn Prism, Motifs, and Alliance Potions. The rate at which you can convert AP to gold will be much higher when purchasing gear drops inside of Cyrodiil, so it wouldn't actually be recommended to purchase things from the Battleground Merchant, but it's always possible to do so if someone is very lazy and doesn't actually want to go inside Cyrodiil, but maybe happens to have some alliance points from monthly rewards or something like that. In the same vein, Telvar can be farmed in the Imperial City, which is a bit trickier since this currency can be negatively affected if you are defeated in PvP while holding it. At the same time, the multiplier for your own looting is increased as you carry more, so it's a gamble that depends on your own skill. This is definitely one of the sweatier ways to earn gold, but if done properly, one can convert Telvar into gold by purchasing sets from the Telvar Equipment Lockbox Merchant, like Powerful Assault. At the same time, superb Imperial reward boxes will give you random pieces of gear, while also granting you with bound items that can't be sold. The last PvP gold making scheme would be to loot reward boxes from daily battlegrounds. This can give you a reason to do those daily battlegrounds aside from just the XP reward, and provides yet another bonus for participating actively in Cyrodiil, as they'll get dropped into your inbox occasionally as you play. Once the reward box is opened, the items inside can be sold or bound to yourself, and some of the items can be valuable here. Remember to talk to a battle master to get Battlegrounds specific dailies that are separate from your normal Battlegrounds bonus that you get for coming in first or second place. So now that PvP is out of the way, we have our final method of earning gold in game, and that is by converting real world currency into in-game gold. The most common method is selling crowns. While it would be extremely easy to be the victim of a scam, we've all seen the zone chatters looking to sell crowns for in-game gold. This is an exchange in which a crown seller will purchase and gift the buyer something from the crown store as a gift in return for gold. Be very cautious if taking part in these sorts of trades, and look for a reputable exchange online. I won't go into specific exchanges, but this is a common tactic for making gold online. Other similar methods dare not be mentioned, as the ESO terms of service do not look kindly upon gold trading. And a quick bonus round, you can also make gold in-game by participating in the marketplace as a middleman, kind of like the stonks guy, buying low and selling high. This is somewhat controversial when you see it happening in zone chat, but the general idea would be to either snipe underpriced listings in guild stores, or to become someone who is always buying some specific types of items, like maybe blue and purple jewelry in the dolmen farming zones, where players can conveniently send you their jewelry for a slightly lower than guild store price, where you can either go on to flip the items for smaller margins or deconstruct them for the platings. In the same way, you can also farm the dolmens your own damn self to achieve the same end, though just standing around and buying from other people would certainly be more passive. And one final bonus idea, a very simple one, would be to farm world bosses and public dungeon bosses to collect specific gear pieces to sell to players who either don't want to grind for the gear themselves, or that don't have access to some specific DLC where the items are being looted. This is basically the same idea as going on to craft sets that others don't have access to, but rather than craftable sets, you'd be looking for overland gear, being sure to remember that delve bosses drop belts, shoes, and unique item pieces. Overland world bosses drop helmets, chest armor, leg armor, weapons, and unique item pieces. Chests at world events like dolmens drop jewelry, and then treasure chests out in the world can contain any set piece that drops in the zone. Alright, so that's my 10 methods for making gold in the Elder Scrolls Online with a few bonus ideas. Like I mentioned in the beginning, you would do best by either finding a few methods that you really enjoy doing, or just work a bunch of them into your daily in-game routine. So whether you're a sweaty PvPer, a role-playing thief, a real estate mogul, or just a casual PvE enjoyer, there's definitely a way for you to make some gold in game to fund your adventures and keep yourself fully geared up. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed. I have a bunch of 1-bar builds on my channel and continue to release a new one each Friday, so stay tuned for more ESO content into the future. And be sure to let me know if there's another method that you enjoy that wasn't included here so everyone else can get some fresh ideas. Alright, see you later.